The African sun hangs low, a molten disk spilling gold over the rolling hills of southeastern Zimbabwe. Shadows stretch across a landscape scattered with boulders, acacia trees, and tall, whispering grasses. And there, rising from the earth like the bones of an ancient beast, are the stone walls. Impossibly tall, curving like frozen waves, their granite blocks fitted so perfectly that not a sliver of light slips between them. No mortar, no cement, just stone upon stone, stacked by hands that understood something we have long forgotten. This is Great Zimbabwe, the largest ancient stone structure south of the Sahara, a place whose name means stone houses in the Shona language. But to the people who first laid eyes on its towering walls centuries ago, it must have seemed like something born from another world. Imagine standing at the edge of its great enclosure, your footsteps muffled by dust, craning your neck to see the top of the walls, some soaring more than 30 feet high. Inside, there are winding passageways, narrow as a man's shoulders, twisting between the stones like a labyrinth designed to confuse and awe. And at the heart of it all, a massive conical tower rises, smooth, rounded, and purposefully built, though its meaning has been lost to time. This is not the work of a scattered tribe, nor the ruins of a hastily built fortress. This is a city, a capital, a statement carved in stone that says, "We were here, we ruled, we thrived." And yet, for hundreds of years, the story of who built it, and how, has been buried beneath layers of myth, colonial bias, and silence. Travel with me now, back to the year 1100 AD. In Europe, castles were rising, and crusaders marched under the cross. In Asia, the Song dynasty was refining its empire. And here, in the highlands of southern Africa, a civilization was quietly building a kingdom that would one day command the gold trade of an entire region. The land around Great Zimbabwe was rich, fertile soil for crops, pastures for cattle, and most importantly, a golden lure hidden in the riverbeds and hills. Gold. The rivers sparkled with flakes and nuggets, and this precious metal became the lifeblood of the kingdom. Gold flowed from these hills toward the east, where it was traded for glass beads, fine cloth, and porcelain that had traveled all the way from China and Persia. It was a place plugged into the world, a hub in a global network centuries before Europeans had even mapped these coasts. The Shona-speaking ancestors of today's Zimbabweans were the architects of this power. Archaeology shows us they were skilled builders, engineers, and traders. They raised not just walls, but whole neighborhoods, royal compounds, homes for artisans, courtyards for ceremonies, and storage huts for grain. Cattle kraals stood beside marketplaces where merchants traded goods from distant lands. The city may have housed up to 20,000 people at its height, a sprawling stone and thatch metropolis alive with voices, music, and the smells of cooking fires. And yet, when Portuguese traders arrived on Africa's southeastern coast in the 1500s, they heard rumors of a great city far inland, one whose rulers wore gold like water and whose walls touched the sky. The Portuguese wrote about it with awe and with greed. They wanted the gold, the trade routes, the power. But by the time they ventured inland, Great Zimbabwe was already in decline. Its people were gone, its halls empty but for the wind. And so, the mystery deepened. Who built this place? Why had they left? And why did its ruins stir so much denial in the centuries to come? When European explorers reached Great Zimbabwe in the 9th century, they found themselves staring at a city that shattered their prejudices. At the time, colonial ideology insisted that sub-Saharan Africa had no history of complex civilization. The idea that African people, Black Africans, could have built something so grand and enduring did not fit their worldview. And so, they began inventing explanations. Some claim the ruins were the work of Phoenicians, the ancient seafarers from the Mediterranean. Others whispered of lost tribes of Israel, or wandering Arabs, or even biblical King Solomon's mines. These theories had little evidence. They were born from refusal to accept the truth. In 1905, archaeologist David Randall McIver conducted careful excavations and found pottery, tools, and artifacts that were unmistakably of local African origin, dating to between the 11th and 15th centuries. His conclusion was clear. Great Zimbabwe was built by the ancestors of the Shona people. Yet the truth was inconvenient. Colonial governments suppressed it for decades, preferring the fantasy of foreign builders over acknowledging African ingenuity. It was not until the mid-20th century that the historical reality began to take its rightful place in the public narrative. But even with the question of who largely settled, why still hangs in the air like the scent of rain before a storm. Why did Great Zimbabwe fall? One theory points to environmental strain. The surrounding land could support a large population for only so long. Overgrazing by cattle may have stripped the land bare, while deforestation for building and firewood thinned the forests. Without enough resources to sustain them, the people may have drifted away in search of new lands. Another possibility lies in politics. As the kingdom expanded, it may have splintered into rival centers of power. Archaeological evidence shows that other cities, like Kami to the southwest, rose in the centuries after Great Zimbabwe's decline, perhaps absorbing its people and its power. Then there's trade. Great Zimbabwe's wealth rested on controlling gold flowing to the Swahili coast. If new routes bypassed the city, or if trade shifted toward other centers, its influence could have withered like a candle in the wind. And finally, we must remember the role of climate. The 14th and 15th centuries saw periods of drought in southern Africa. Maize harvests would have failed, cattle would have starved, and famine could have gnawed at the city's foundations. Perhaps it was not one cause, but all of these together, a slow unraveling of a golden age until the city's walls stood silent under the sun. Today, Great Zimbabwe stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The stones remain, curved walls that seem to flow like water, the conical tower still rising in quiet defiance. If you stand there at dawn, the granite glows pink in the morning light, and the air is still except for the call of distant birds. It's easy to imagine the city as it was, markets buzzing, drums echoing across the hills, the scent of roasting meat and brewing beer drifting on the breeze. But more than that, Great Zimbabwe is a reminder that Africa's history is not a blank page waiting for someone else to write it. It is a vast, intricate tapestry of kingdoms, builders, traders, and dreamers. It is a reminder that civilizations rise in many places, in many forms, not just in the corridors of Europe or the valleys of the Nile. And still, there are questions. Beneath the soil around the ruins lie untold artifacts, perhaps even entire neighborhoods yet to be uncovered. Each excavation brings new clues: a shard of pottery with a design from faraway lands, a bead from India, a fragment of porcelain from Ming China. The reach of Great Zimbabwe was far greater than we once imagined. Some historians even speculate about connections beyond Africa's shores, not in the romanticized colonial sense of Phoenicians and lost tribes, but in the practical, human reality of trade. Did Swahili merchants bring tales of the stone city to Arabia? Did its gold travel to the courts of India or the markets of Europe? In a way, we know the answer. Gold from this region has been found in medieval coins as far away as the Middle East. Great Zimbabwe was part of the world's bloodstream long before globalization became a word. But here's the thought that lingers, the one I can't quite shake. We will never hear the voices of those who built it. We will never know the names of the masons who shaped each granite block, or the leaders who ordered their placement, or the songs sung by the workers as they carried stone after stone under the blazing African sun. And yet, their work endures. 1,000 years later, the walls still stand, curving against the horizon, telling us without words, we were here. As the sun dips low again and shadows lengthen over the hills, Great Zimbabwe becomes something more than just a ruin. It becomes a mirror, reflecting both the brilliance of human creation and the fragility of the societies we build. Civilizations do not last forever, but their stones can whisper for centuries. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of Africa's past. What do you think caused Great Zimbabwe's decline? Was it nature, politics, economics, or something we have yet to imagine? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps keep these stories alive.